This episode of The Story Cottage is brought to you by our friends at the Kings Ridge Elderberries, Indigo Sundries Soap Company, Lux Coffee, Skin Balm Apothecary, and our amazing supporters. Click the Support the Show link in the show notes and subscribe for only $5 a month to get every episode ad-free. And now, on with the show. Fairy tales, folklore, myths, and legends. Why do children need them? Why do nations and peoples create them? Who knows? Maybe some of them are real. Maybe some are merely imaginative. Is there a hidden wisdom worth finding in these tall tales? Proverbs 1:5-6 says, "Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance, to understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles." We're your hosts, Jerry and Amy Davidson. Welcome to the Story Cottage. Please step inside.
One day the god Thor, with his servant Thialfi, and accompanied by Loki, set out on a journey to the giants' country. Thialfi was of all men the swiftest of foot. He bore Thor's wallet, containing their provisions. When night came on, they found themselves in an immense forest and searched on all sides for a place where they might pass the night. And at last they came to a very large hall, with an entrance that took the whole breadth of one end of the building. Here they lay down to sleep, but towards midnight were alarmed by an earthquake which shook the whole edifice. Thor, rising up, called on his companions to seek with him a place of safety. On the right they found an adjoining chamber, into which the others entered, but Thor remained at the doorway with his mallet in his hand, prepared to defend himself, whatever might happen. A terrible groaning was heard during the night, and at dawn of day Thor went out and found lying near him a huge giant who slept and snored in the way that had alarmed them so. It is said that for once Thor was afraid to use his mallet, and as the giant soon waked up, Thor contented himself with simply asking his name.
"My name is Skrimir,"
said the giant.
"but I need not ask thy name, for I know that thou art the god Thor. But what has become of my glove?"
Thor then perceived that what they had taken overnight for a hall was the giant's glove, and the chamber where his two companions had sought refuge was the thumb. Skrimir then proposed that they should travel in company, and when they had done, Skrimir packed all the provisions into one wallet, threw it over his shoulder, and strode on before them, taking such tremendous strides that they were hard put to it to keep up with him. So they traveled the whole day, and at dusk Skrimir chose a place for them to pass the night in under a large oak tree. Skrimir then told them he would lie down to sleep.
"But take ye the wallet,"
he added,
"and prepare your supper."
Skrimir soon fell asleep and began to snore strongly. But when Thor tried to open the wallet, he found the giant had tied it up so tight he could not untie a single knot. At last Thor became wroth, and grasping his mallet with both hands, he struck a furious blow on the giant's head. Skrimir, awakening, merely asked whether a leaf had not fallen on his head, and whether they had supped and were ready to go to sleep. Thor answered that they were just going to sleep, and so saying, went and laid himself down under another tree. But sleep came not that night to Thor, and when Skrimir snored again so loud that the forest re-echoed with the noise, he arose and, grasping his mallet, launched it with such force at the giant's skull that it made a deep dent in it. Skrimir, awakening, cried out,
"What's the matter? Are there any birds perched on this tree? I felt some moss from the branches fall on my head. How fares it with thee, Thor?
But Thor went away hastily, saying that he had just then awoke, and that as it was only midnight, there was still some time for sleep. He, however, resolved that if he had an opportunity of striking a third blow, it should settle all matters between them. A little before daybreak, he perceived that Skrymir was again fast asleep, and again, grasping his mallet, he dashed it with such violence that it forced its way into the giant's skull up to the handle. But Skrymir sat up, and stroking his cheek, said,
An acorn fell on my head. What? Art thou awake, Thor? Methinks it is time for us to get up and dress ourselves. But you have not now a long way before you to the city called Utgard. I have heard you whispering to one another that I am not a man of small dimensions, but if you come to Utgard, you will see there many men much taller than I. Wherefore I advise you, when you come there, not to make too much of yourselves, for the followers of Utgard Loki will not brook the boasting of such little fellows as you are. You must take the road that leads eastward. Mine lies northward, so we must part here.
Hereupon he threw his wallet over his shoulders and turned away from them into the forest, and Thor had no wish to stop him or to ask for any more of his company. Ladies, have you grown tired of reading through the ingredients on your skincare products only to buy something that doesn't really work? Let's be real, there aren't a lot of great options for skin and body care out there. Here's the solution. Our great friends at Skin Balm Apothecary have literally everything you need. Handcrafted in the US by a mom and educated herbalist, her premium products are made for all ages and skin types and are safe for children, pregnant women, and nursing mothers, with no toxic or synthetic ingredients, no chemicals, and no fillers. I use her Awake Coffee Serum and Firming Serum every single day, and the results are immediate and absolutely incredible. My face has never been brighter or my skin clearer in my life. And she has products for hair, face, lips, and body, such as deodorant, sunscreen, body oil, and even baby balm and essential oils. Go to skinbalmapothecary.com and use code STORYCOTTAGE15 for 15% off your first order. Skin Balm Apothecary, rooted in nature, crafted with intention. My darling husband, your beard hath become as soft as a snowdrift, and thy scent is that of a king before a grand feast. Tell me, how is this so?
Honey, why are you talking like that?
Because I am enamored with thy scent. I must know, how can these things be?
I just started using Indigo Sundry's soap. They've been a Christian family business for over 20 years who use their own proprietary recipes to make actually clean soaps, without any of the nasty stuff big soap companies use like parabens, phthalates, and preservatives. They even have essential oil only, clay, and unscented soap options, and tons of great bundles.
Oh my lord, telleth me now how mayeth we getteth more.
Honey, please stop. Just go to indigosundrysoap.com and use code STORY for 10% off.
I shall make haste to do so, and all my ladies in waiting must spread the word. For if all the wives of the world were as enthralled with their husband's scent as I, we should have peace in the land.
Sure, baby. Maybe you should stop using the bad soaps. They're making you crazy.
Thor and his companions proceeded on their way, and, towards noon, observed a city standing in the middle of a plain. It was so lofty that they were obliged to bend their necks quite back on their shoulders in order to see the top of it. On arriving, they entered the city, and, seeing a large palace before them with the door wide open, they went in, and found a number of men of prodigious stature, sitting on benches in the hall. Going further, they came before the king, Utgard Loki, whom they saluted with great respect. The king, regarding them with a scornful smile, said,
If I do not mistake me, that stripling yonder must be the god Thor.
Then addressing himself to Thor, he said,
Perhaps thou mayest be more than thou appearest to be. What are the feats that thou and thy fellows deem yourselves skilled in? for no one is permitted to remain here who does not, in some feat or other, excel all other men.
The feat that I know,
said Loki,
is to eat quicker than anyone else, and in this I am ready to give a proof against anyone here who may choose to compete with me.
That will indeed be a feat,
said Utgard Loki.
if thou performest what thou promisest, and it shall be tried forthwith.
He then ordered one of his men, who was sitting at the farther end of the bench and whose name was Logi, to come forward and try his skill with Loki. A trough filled with meat having been set on the hall floor, Loki placed himself at one end and Logi at the other, and each of them began to eat as fast as he could until they met in the middle of the trough. But it was found that Loki had only eaten the flesh, while his adversary had devoured both flesh and bone, and the trough to boot. All the company therefore adjudged that Loki was vanquished. Utgard Loki then asked what feat the young man who accompanied Thor could perform. Thialfi answered that he would run a race with anyone who might be matched against him. The king observed that skill in running was something to boast of, but if the youth would win the match, he must display great agility. He then arose and went with all who were present to a plain where there was good ground for running on, and calling a young man named Hugi, bade him run a match with Thialfi. In the first course, Hugi so much outstripped his competitor that he turned back and met him not far from the starting place. Then they ran a second and a third time, but Thialfi met with no better success. Utgard Loki then asked Thor in what feats he would choose to give proofs of that prowess for which he was so famous. Thor answered that he would try a drinking match with anyone. Utgard Loki bade his cupbearer bring the large horn which his followers were obliged to empty when they had trespassed in any way against the law of the feast. The cupbearer having presented it to Thor, Utgard Loki said,
Whoever is a good drinker will empty that horn at a single draught, though most men make 2 of it, but the most puny drinker can do it in 3.
Thor looked at the horn, which seemed of no extraordinary size, though somewhat long. However, as he was very thirsty, he set it to his lips, and without drawing a breath, pulled as long and as deeply as he could, that he might not be obliged to make a second draught of it. But when he set the horn down and looked in, he could scarcely perceive that the liquor was diminished. After taking breath, Thor went to it again with all his might, but when he took the horn from his mouth, it seemed to him that he had drunk rather less than before, although the horn could now be carried without spilling.
How now, Thor?
Said Utgard Loki.
Thou must not spare thyself. If thou meanest to drain the horn at the 3rd draught, thou must pull deeply, and I must needs say that thou wilt not be called so mighty a man here as thou art at home, if thou showest no greater prowess in other feats than methinks will be shown in this.
Thor, full of wrath, again set the horn to his lips and did his best to empty it, but on looking in found the liquor was only a little lower, so he resolved to make no further attempt, but gave back the horn to the cupbearer.
I see now plainly,
said Utgard Loki,
that thou art not quite so stout as we thought thee. But wilt thou try any other feat, though methinks thou art not likely to bear any prize away with thee hence?
What new trial hast thou to propose?
said Thor.
We have a very trifling game here,
answered Utgard Loki,
in which we exercise none but children. It consists in merely lifting my cat from the ground, nor could I have dared to mention such a feat to the great Thor, if I had not already observed that thou art by no means what we took thee for.
As he finished speaking, a large gray cat sprang on the hall floor. Thor put his hand under the cat's belly and did his utmost to raise him from the floor, but the cat, bending his back, had, notwithstanding all Thor's efforts, only one of his feet lifted up, seeing which Thor made no further attempt.
This trial has turned out,
said Utgard Loki,
just as I imagined it would. The cat is large, but Thor is little in comparison to our men.
Little as ye call me,
answered Thor.
Let me see who among you will come hither now. I am in wrath, and wrestle with me.
I see no one here,
said Utgard Loki, looking at the men sitting on the benches.
who would not think it beneath him to wrestle with thee. Let somebody, however, call hither that old crone, my nurse Ellie, and let Thor wrestle with her if he will. She has thrown to the ground many a man not less strong than this Thor is.
A toothless old woman then entered the hall and was told by Utgard Loki to take hold of Thor. The tale is shortly told. The more Thor tightened his hold on the crone, the firmer she stood. At length, after a very violent struggle, Thor began to lose his footing and was finally brought down upon one knee. Utgard Loki then told them to desist, adding that Thor had now no occasion to ask anyone else in the hall to wrestle with him. And it was also getting late, so he showed Thor and his companions to their seats, and they passed the night there in good cheer. The next morning, at break of day, Thor and his companions dressed themselves and prepared for their departure. Utgard Loki ordered a table to be set for them, on which there was no lack of victuals or drink. After the repast, Utgard Loki led them to the gate of the city, and on parting asked Thor how he thought his journey had turned out, and whether he had met with any men stronger than himself. Thor told him that he could not deny, but that he had brought great shame on himself.
And what grieves me most,
He added,
is that ye will call me a person of little worth.
Nay,
said Utgard Loki.
it behooves me to tell thee the truth. Now thou art out of the city, which so long as I live and have my way, thou shalt never enter again. And by my troth, had I known beforehand that thou hadst so much strength in thee, and wouldst have brought me so near to a great mishap, I would not have suffered thee to enter this time. Know then that I have all along deceived thee by my illusions. First in the forest, when I tied up the wallet with iron wire so that thou couldst not untie it. After this, thou gavest me 3 blows with thy mallet. The first, though the least, would have ended my days had it fallen on me. But I slipped aside, and thy blows fell on the mountain, where thou wilt find 3 glens, one of them remarkably deep. These are the dents made by thy mallet. I have made use of similar illusions in the contests you have had with my followers. In the first, Loki, like hunger itself, devoured all that was set before him. But Loki was in reality nothing else than fire, and therefore consumed not only the meat, but the trough which held it. Hugi, with whom Thialfi contended in running, was thought, and it was impossible for Thialfi to keep pace with that. When thou in thy turn didst attempt to empty the horn, thou didst perform by my trough a deed so marvelous that had I not seen it myself, I should never have believed it. For one end of that horn reached the sea, which thou wast not aware of, but when thou comest to the shore, thou wilt perceive how much the sea has sunk by thy drops. Thou didst perform a feat no less wonderful by lifting up the cat, and to tell thee the truth, when we saw that one of his paws was off the floor, we were all of us terror-stricken, for what thou tookest for a cat was in reality the Midgard serpent that encompasseth the earth, and he was so stretched by thee that he was barely long enough to enclose it between his head and tail. Thy wrestling with Ellie was also a most astonishing feat, for there was never yet a man, nor ever will be, whom old age, for such in fact was Ellie, will not sooner or later lay low. But now, as we are going to part, let me tell thee that it will be better for both of us if thou never come near me again, for shouldst thou do so, I shall again defend myself by other illusions, so that thou wilt only lose thy labor and get no fame from the contest with me.
On hearing these words, Thor in a rage laid hold of his mallet and would have launched it at him, but Utgard Loki had disappeared, and when Thor would have returned to the city to destroy it, he found nothing around him but a verdant plain.
Hey, honey, why are the kids running around in the backyard talking about building burrows?
Oh, I gave them a little bit of coffee.
What?
It's okay, dear. It's Lux coffee. Post tenebris lux. After darkness, light. The kids were being so disobedient, so I gave them some coffee called the Alfred option.
Oh, that's where they got the burrow thing. But wait, you're giving the kids Artisan roast coffee?
Only the best for my little angels. Lux defies convenience in favor of quality, single origin roasting. Here's a cup of brutal American for you, my knight in shining armor.
Wow, this coffee is incredible. How do we get more?
By going to luxcoffee.co and use code ChristIsKing for 15% off.
Thanks, honey. I think I'm gonna go join the kids. For Christ and his bride, post tenebris lux. Tired of evil fairies using cold and flu season to turn you and your children into ogres every year? Yeah, me too. This cold and flu season, fortify your defenses naturally with the King's Ridge elderberry syrup and elderberry products. They grow the freshest elderberries on their Indiana farm, hand-pick and cold-press them into the tastiest syrup around. And they are packed with antioxidants and vitamins to boost your immune system. Defend the castle of your family's health. Use code STORY10 for 10% off your first order at tkrfarm.com. The King's Ridge elderberry syrup. Taste the difference, help push back the curse. That's tkrfarm.com and use code STORY10 for 10% off your first order. Welcome back to the Story Cottage. All right, it is hammer time. Get it? As in, we have a smashing deal for you. For a limited time, to get the show completely ad-free plus digital downloads, it is now only $3 per month. So smash the follow button, smash the 5-star review button, smash that keyboard as you type out your gigantic review of the show, and smash the support the show button to get everything ad-free for only $3. You know, some say that I am like Thor because my puns cause thunderous laughter.
Ha 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 ha. Anyway, lastly, check out our sponsors. They are all great family businesses doing incredibly good work, and their products are incredible.
Indeed. All right, first question. What do the characters in this story value most?
Well, we really only have two characters to look at in this story. First is, of course, Thor. He is a self-possessed, vain, undisciplined, yet powerful god in Norse mythology. As we learn from the story, when Utgard Loki reveals all the illusions and tricks he has played on Thor and his companions, Thor is easily offended and quick to try to kill whomever does so. But aside from the obvious valuing of his own self above all others, he values adventure for its own sake. Secondly, Utgard Loki, the giant king of the city of Utgard, values his tricks, but he also values his people and place. Even though Utgard Loki is not exactly a good guy in this story, he reveals that his illusions were both a testing of Thor and a protection of his people from him. The entire city of Utgard was an illusion cast on Thor to keep him from entering the real city and potentially hurting the people of the giants.
Yep, all good points. Second question, what lessons can we learn from this story?
Well, first, Thor's personal vanity and vain adventure teach us not to think too highly of ourselves. If you regularly find yourself to be angry, vengeful, scornful, a gossip, a slanderer, or the sort of person who broods over their circumstances, you probably are sinning even more by thinking of yourself too highly. If that's you, repent and turn to God for forgiveness, and ask forgiveness from those you've acted that way toward.
Yes, and secondly, don't be too hasty to go off into a new venture without forethought. Christ says in Luke 14:30, "What king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able, with 10,000, to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace." Christ is talking here regarding giving up all we have for the greatest prize, Christ himself. But regarding this story, the principle Christ is talking about shows the plain idiocy of Thor. Thor is so full of himself and so confident in his own strength that he goes off to attack giants in their own land without any planning whatsoever. So be patient and prayerful in your plans, and be humble enough to seek counsel before moving forward. Lastly, regarding Utgard Loki, we can learn that trickery and deceit are useful tools against an enemy. It is not a sin to trick your enemy or lie to them for the sake of sound strategy for a righteous cause. Rahab lied to the guards of Jericho to ensure that the spies of the Israelites got out safely. Ehud, a judge in Israel, tricked the king of Moab to give himself the opportunity to assassinate him. God teaches us to be as shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. We can employ sound tactics and even trickery to protect and defend our home, our churches, our laws, our people, and our nation. And it is good to do so.
All right, well, that's our show for today.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Toodaloo.